Hi, everyone. This is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and today I'm excited to have Zhong Zhu, who's the co-founder and CEO of Deliverect, which helps restaurants streamline their online sales and automate the business by connecting online sales channels directly into their POS. And they've processed over $2.5 billion in GMV in 2020. And Deliverect has raised more than $90 million from Ivy League investors like GST Global. Zhong has been an alumni of Gent University. Welcome to the show, Zhong.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So, you have an interesting journey from Belgium. How did you get your start into this crazy world of startups?
I'm now 37-year-old, but I started very, very young. Deliverect itself is a very young company. It's 3.5 years. That being said, we're almost 400 people serving customers, in 40 markets with 13 offices. So hyper scale. Sometimes people ask me, how the hell did you just do that so quickly in 3 years? And honestly, I think, I always tell them, I'm a bit cheating because I'm not doing this for 3 years. I've been almost 20 years as an entrepreneur in the hospitality space, right? I started very young. At age 16, 17, I was already creating websites for, Asian restaurants. When there's the first version of HTML and so on. And the reason was that my father is an immigrant, but he also created 25 years ago, a point of sale, a restaurant management system for mainly Chinese restaurants in Belgium. So, especially as a kid from any immigrant, they push you very, very hard of like, hey, you better start making a living and work. So that's how I roll in that world. That being said, my biggest fear, unlike me, was taking over business. So I was thinking, I need to get out of this restaurant, software space. So I actually learned to code very young on at 16, 17, and then did the university as software engineer. I worked at a couple, international and bigger companies as well, startups. And the fear of taking over business, pushed me into creating a better solution than his system. So when the first iPad came out, iPad came out in 2010, 11, I thought, wow, that's the moment. I saw Steve Jobs taking the iPhone, presenting the iPad, and that was very early on. I thought, wow, that's the way of creating a software where it's on a bespoke platform, scaling everywhere without thinking about hardware, having a lot of issues. So in 2010, 11, I created my second startup, but a real one, POS iOS, creating one of the first iPad point of sales for restaurants. And that company itself scaled tremendously, from a small startup with 2 guys, with my co-founder Yang Lei, to in 2 years having customers in 24 countries, Singapore, New York. We did it very naively, putting it all in, borrowing money from the bank, putting our houses as collateral to scale that company. And in 2014, I think to go even quicker, we had a very big company in US, Canada called Lightspeed, a public company today, that called us and said, hey, guys, don't you want to join us? We're in retail, you're in hospitality, help us run this side of the business. So basically, I ran the hospitality side of Lightspeed point of sale, company on NASDAQ, TSX, today up to IPO. And that's when also the story of Deliverect started. As any founder, I was very restless and saw a different opportunity, saw the market needing for a solution. And like the first time, I was thinking, why the hell is nobody doing this? And everyone's in pain. So we decided to ditch everything and start from scratch again. So hence Deliverect today.
Yeah, no, that's a super interesting story because you've been working for 20 years, and I can totally understand. With immigrants, the hustle and the resilience is always there. And, you started off working with your father's company. How's that experience? And do you think would you give an advice to work in a bigger company like a McKinsey to understand the process, or do you think somebody who just fresh out of college should work for a startup and learn if he wants to build a business going forward?
Yeah, so after my university, of engineering, my first job was like a startup. So, um, and that was good because I learned to fail. I'll tell you why. Because people always say, "Hey, you never fail." It's not true. I failed, but it was just not my company. So that startup learned a lot of things. One of the most important things is everything in business is about timing, and I will tell you why. That startup was creating uh, software and mobile transformation for website to mobile websites, as well as mobile apps before the iPhone existed. So smartphone, we did that for years for creating smartphones. That smartphone were, Blackberries of this world, Nokia N95, Symbian, these old devices. And if you think about it, back then we were, a bunch of 20 engineers that are super good at making apps and mobile stuff, just a year or 2 years too early. And the fun is, it's not even about capital because that company raised $4 or $5 million to say, hey, we're going to transform the world to mobile. But because, the market was not there, independent how great we were, how much capital we had, it failed. And that's why one of the lessons, especially in later stages or, in POS, iOS, as well as Deliverect, is people assume you need a lot of capital and resources to start. It's more about, hey, you should create that MVP, get that first customers, and wait for the market to hit the right timing. So once the market is there, you need to go. But sometimes the market's not there. And if you rush into this and say, hey, I'm gonna take a nice lease, hire a lot of people, then you're gonna die. Independent how much capital you have and so on, you're not ready to scale, right? So that was one of the lessons I learned. And to give you a point of, hey, how about bigger companies? I did also want to see how the grass was greener at the other side. So after that company went down, I said, hey, maybe startup life is not for me. Let's go to a corporate one. So I joined a Belgian company called TVS Broadcast. Nobody will know that, but these guys invented the slow motion, and they have and they invented streaming. So every soccer match in the world, every NFL, basketball, Roland Garros you see on the world, it passed through their servers. And I created there, together with the team, a cloud archive. And what's good was, hey, I learned that even at a young age, I can create massive solutions for these massive corporates. That being said, quickly we realized that was not for us because everything moves so slowly, and the disruption that you wanted as engineer, it's hard to get in a larger corporation because of politics and so on. So hence when the moment was there to jump, we did it. And when we created POS iOS, because of the lesson learned in previous companies, we actually coded the software with two during a span of 9 months, where we took all the weekends, all the evenings, and even in the traffic jam, because we were working, quite far. And every day, one of the two, there were two. One, my co-founder drove. I was coding, or he was driving. He was coding. I was driving, and we even coded like that 2 hours a day. So we calculated with being in the traffic jam and using all our weekends and holidays. We almost had a full-time job to code our company, while doing other companies. So bootstrapping completely and launching at a global scale. So very naive, but in hindsight, each time now I start a company, people always ask me, Zhong, you have so many resources. Why the hell are you sitting in a tiny shed on 2 tables and you buying chairs at IKEA? You don't give your guys the best equipment. I said, you don't get it. It's about getting that feeling of fighting for it and waiting for that time.
Yeah, no, I think that's super inspiring. That and also very relevant for entrepreneurs listening to this podcast. That you need to start small and have the hustle and to make it big. I want to talk about how do we come up with the idea of Deliverect, and what's a revenue model for that?
Yeah, I think the Deliverect idea is similar to any other ideas, listening to your customers, right? So the first time I called POS iOS, it's less about tablet. Well, hey, people want to move to cloud because you don't want to have a system breaking down. You need to call someone that drives you to a restaurant to change something, right? So that was really the flexibility. So the next evolution in hospitality was going online. It's so logical today. But back then, even when we had this idea, although you have this in retail and hotel where everything is went online, for hotels, booking.com, retail, Amazon, and so on, restaurants were like, hey, we're a food. We're about service, hospitality, hot food. It's never going to happen. Nobody is going to disrupt all business online. That being said, since 2016, 17, with the growth of Uber Eats, Deliveroo, Grubhub, DoorDash, all these delivery companies, restaurants saw 10, 20, 30, and even more of their revenue coming from these players, right? And of course, that was pre-COVID. So we saw this trend early on where not one or two, but hundreds and thousands of restaurants around the world told me, Zhong, you need to fix this for us. Because what we were not afraid of, this change of online, we are now. And we need a partner that can help us to navigate this change of world. Because every day there's new online players coming up. We can't cope with this, and we are scared, but we do need to adopt it. So that's where Deliverect comes in. So we are not an online ordering company or a point of sale, but what we help restaurants is really, allowing them to sell on any channel at any time without caring about the operation. And the result of this is even astonishing because it also helps the online world as well as the offline world, because we're providing API backbone of on-demand food. Anyone today online that want to access a physical restaurant can do this through Deliverect. And hence, that Deliverect scale very quickly. We're solving a need for multiple parties in a global environment. And then about timing, we started 1 year before COVID happened, so we didn't foresee that. And sometimes that was the perfect timing, right? If I'm honest, each time you start a company, it takes 6 to 9 months to make the MVP, and then you need a quarter to just commercialize a bit. So a year is a good time, and after a year, it's time to scale. And of course, besides us scaling and doing that size, the world moved up a couple years into the future very quickly. So hence, or acceleration has happened even more. And even if I don't want to, we needed to push the gas pedal, and so that's why we're scaling so rapidly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The COVID has been an accelerator of a lot of businesses and a lot of companies, especially companies like Deliverect. And I wanted to understand how much capital have you raised till now, and how's been your experience raising money remotely?
So that's quite funny. So besides our first seed round, we all around are remotely. So we raised a Series A with almost in a height, in 2020, in the height of the pandemic, so March, like the week of the lockdown. And in the past, you could say, hey, they probably foresaw that we're going to do a perfect fit for this world. I think that was, having good investors means a lot. They stick their gun to it with us, and that we're going to make it happen. As well, the last round was DSP leading us at Red Point. Was also, mid in the pandemic. I think raising money remotely has been easier than before. Imagine before, if you want to go get capital, you need to almost do a round the world trip, right? So you want to have some USDCs, you need to travel a week to San Francisco, you need to have physical meetings in London and so on. And these pitches are tiresome. You need to get there, you do one in the morning, maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, 1 or 2 in the afternoon. But even that, you can't probably do as much. As now online, I think when we went to market last year, in the first couple of weeks, we just said, hey, let's do 5, 6 online. I did Zoom back to back, telling the story, pitching to investors, and you actually very quickly get an answer, right? Because people understand you cannot be there. So it's more about creating that relationship. And second thing is, it is very important for people raising. You can't just cold call investors. If anything you do in this world is about trust. So you need to have trust with your current investor that can vouch for you, or people that that can vouch for you. So hence, again, the reason we can go so quickly with Deliverect is the years we have been in this space, that we made a lot of friends, but also people understand the trustworthiness of us. So that's a very important bit of raising capital. Right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That it's important to build trust, and it takes time. I think you've been in this industry for a couple of years. It's not an overnight success. It took you a long time to reach here, and I think all that relationships will really help out. And yeah, I wanted to know how did you acquire your first customers on the platform, especially during the times of COVID.
I think what we always did is, if there's a need, you can, really help these customers, you get them, right? I think one of the things that I urge every entrepreneur to do is get real customers. So ship your product quick, really quick. It's a niche. Everyone says that, but it's really true. Sometimes your MVP, whatever you think as MVP it's still too sophisticated, right? You can ship some very basic product, but get these customers to pay a little bit of the money, right? So your first customers are your early adopter evangelists. So instead of making them, being that paid only customers, you really make them a partner with them. You tell them, hey, look, we're building this together, and because of that, I'm not going to charge you a lot. Maybe I'm charging only $10, $20 a month monthly fee, so it's not anything that you would care about, but it means something as your customers. In return, I really want you to help me to co-develop. Let me know what doesn't work. Be annoying as you can so that I'm iterating my product. And of course, if you like it, create, be a reference customer, right? So that's how you get that.
Hi, Zong. There seems to be some issue with the with audio. I am unable to hear you.
Sorry.
Yeah, would it be okay if you answer the question again?
Oh, yeah. So how do we get our first customers? I think it's one of the things is as entrepreneurs is ship your product really quickly, right? Even if you think you have your MVP, it's not MVP enough. Go to the bare minimum and bring it to the customer. So, and people are then always afraid, how do I charge them? I'm going to give it for free. Don't give it for free, but tell them, hey, we're building this product up. It's going to take a while, but in the meantime, I really want you as a customer and have something that is useful. And, I understand you can't pay a lot because it's not fully fledged. How about you pay me $10, $20 a month? Not a lot, right? And, and what you're asking is, hey, be a paid customer, give me that feedback. And as well, tell me the lesson learned and be a reference customer for me. And that's how you build that pool of early adopters, because someone needs to jump, and it's always these early adopters that lead the way. And if they can co-create this product as well, being that evangelist and testimonial customers, that's how you build your customer pool. Yeah, start with a couple customers and move from there. Yeah, you need to do a bit fake it till you make it as well, right?
Got it. And what do restaurants really care about? Are they do they focus more on speed, quality? What is it that you have found that has been the main pain point for them?
A restaurant called focus on service and relationships, right? So you can get in if they trust you. So it's all about that, because it's a very service-oriented business. But of course, your software needs to solve something, right? It needs to solve a real pain. As any business, you need to quantify it. Hey, in the case of Deliverect, if you use us, we automatically increase your revenue after 6 months or 25, 30%. So it's a no-brainer. We solve a lot of human errors, save you a lot of time. So it's quantifiable. So these, measure point is there, but then still to convince them, because especially small or medium restaurant, it's run by, mom and pops, it's not business owners running it, it's passionate people. It's about, hey, showcasing what others have done, what results are, and still building that relationship so that they trust you, that you are going to help them to excel, right?
Correct. And you've expanded to different countries and geographies. What do the customers also care about the same thing across different geographies or countries?
I think sometimes you can find issues that are global, right? There's delivery companies everywhere. It's maybe different ones in the Middle East. It's the Talabat, Karim, Yahez, Noon, and so on. But at the end of the day, the problem is this, that there's a lot of channels, and you need someone to help them to manage that. So if the problem exists and there's interest, you can scale in that country. That being said, be strategic and opportunistic. So what do I mean by opportunistic? If you feel there's traction in a certain region, find that local sales guy, set it up and build it out. As well, sometimes you can be strategic. If you feel, hey, that region I need to be, well, then you need to set it up front. But in reality, most of the times you can create that buzz online, right? For example, the first time we create our iPad point of sales, we launched it on the App Store in all countries. So automatically, you're going to get requests from the US, from Canada, from Australia, and so on. And depending on what the need is, you need to ramp up quickly, right? You see there's a need, and you need to put these local people there. And often, it's the first guys there are salespeople that really can connect the customer, but also building up the relationship in that ecosystem.
Got it. And what is the sort of framework you use when you're looking at solving problems and decision-making process, especially since you have expanded into different countries and different geographies?
Take action, better than no action, and reiterate. Go quick. So I think it's less about problem solving and decision making. If you can make a decision, just make the decision. Don't second guess yourself, and you can always change it later. The thing is, sometimes, if you don't want to jump for it, it has passed, you're not going to make it up. Sometimes you see a good candidate, if your gut feeling tells you it's right, you should just do it. You can say, hey, I'm going to wait for the next one, but, it's very uncertain. So I think as an entrepreneur, it's sometimes, hey, think about the problem and sometimes just make a quick decision, because the illusion is that we know it better, or someone else knows it better, and that analyzing it will make it way certain or easier, right? You do not know that. You don't know the market, you don't know the problem. So the only thing is iterate quick, move quick. And sometimes, yes, we make mistakes, but then at least you tried and you know what not to do.
Got it. Absolutely. I think keep taking actions. But when it comes to different geographies, is it like a centralized decision making where you make all the decisions, or do you leave to people in the other geographies to make decisions for the company?
We really, on one of the values, we want to take decisions and action as low as possible in the organization, right? So our company is not run by rules. It's really run by values. So we tell people, hey, this is our mission, these are the values, and we want people to run for it. Because once you create, too many hierarchical decision making, it really bogs down the company. And often when you start as a small company or a new region, you actually attract the people that are very entrepreneurial. The first guy starting for you in a country, that's not going to be a guy that is comfortable in a 9-to-5 job, because he would not join you, because it's like, hey, I'm the first person there. So automatically they are actually go-getters. So the last thing you should do is boggle them down with your rules that you think it's amazing and so on. You do need to guide them, teach them about, hey, best practices, but for them, let them run it and let them, do what they think is right. And for the rest, the organization itself need to support these leaders. So it's about empowering everyone and having actually a very fragmented decision making. It should not top down, should not by a country or HQ. And a good example for this, Deliverect or C-level or head level, is very fragmented. My CFO lives in Berlin. My CRO, my commercial director, is in London. I'm in Ghent. My chief integration office is in Amsterdam. My marketeer is in Amsterdam. My head of security is in Madrid, right? So breaking up that, actually these head off and these leaders actually empowers your company to move very quickly, because people feel like, hey, there's not someone or somewhere making these decisions on us. There's a leader just beside me. Yeah, so we are all equal.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. All your C-level and VP, level executives live across the world and they all work together. Love that. And how did you go on to build such a culture where you're not physically present? I've seen in a lot of companies they are pushing their employees to go back to office to build on culture, but you have built a 400 employee company. Uh, how do you structure that culture, and how can a founder, once he starts a company, build on a culture which is based on transparency so that it can scale up?
So culture is a lot of work. Yeah, people say, hey, it's automatic, it's happening automatically. Yes, it's true, it happens automatically. It's unwritten the first 10, 20 people and 30 people, but once you scale, it dilutes very quickly. So it's actually quite work to maintain that. So how did we do it? It's quite unique. When we were even with two, Yan and me, we had and still have a full-time culture coach. So, we had her, when I started a new company, not my first time, I said, hey, Ingrid's her name. I said, you need to join us. We're starting a company. I need a culture coach. We're with two. Everyone in the world said, that know me, I said, Zhong, you have really issues with your co-founders. You guys are crazy. You need a coach, a therapist, maybe even when you were two. I said, you don't get it. We're going to scale very quickly. And actually, you need someone to write it out, document it, run the practices. So even today, we have an onboarding team, but Ingrid still, set up these culture sessions with every group that start, guide them on the principles, give them actually the feeling, hey, you guys are in charge of it. It's not, we're not putting here written text I need to follow. It's like, hey, this is how we got there. This is how we follow it. To break that, hierarchy layer, right? Because even culture, when you grow, can feel like, hey, it's enforced on me. So you want to make sure people are embracing and going through the same steps. So, building that culture is a lot of hard work, a lot of training, and also a lot of repetition. We do a lot of offsites, and these offsites is really about, hey, understanding you as a person, understanding how you fit in the organization, and understanding and teaching you how to excel, right? So we really want to make sure everyone in the company grows, and automatically this culture keeps alive. So it's not, it doesn't happen without doing the work.
Got it, absolutely. And in what way can leaders feel safe to take big bets, but also not lose any accountability if that does not work out? How do you make it safe for the executives?
So I think one of the values is, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you land among the stars, right? We're heavy on rocket ship and galaxies. And that's very true. So we want you to push the envelope, right? It's high intensity. Yeah. It's about, we go quickly. We don't want to take small aspirational, steps. We really want to go and grow as quick as we can. That being said, sometimes if you miss, it can happen. But as long the person did his best, as long he tried, and this for whatever reason not successful, we will, as leaders, back them up. I think that's where actually a lot of success comes from. So sometimes we have leaders said that didn't make it, and they're very anxious talking to us. It's like, hey, I didn't make my goals and targets, and if you're in that position, you have two ways: or you're supporting the guy, or you're going to crack them down. And supporting them, that being said, also helping them to understand why and how we can make it better is going to put these people in the next level. But they also know, hey, you can't, never make your target, right? But so it's that balance. And I think this is important for us because we have worked and created a lot of companies, and we have gotten circumstances where people had burned out. People, did everything and burned out for all sorts of reasons. And in hindsight, it's never worth it. So it's better to make people happy and motivate them in the right way, and you're going to see actually they're going to overachieve what they can do. Yeah, but that doesn't mean we won't pressure them. I do think you need to make sure people are a little bit out of their comfort zone to achieve things. Yeah, if you're just in your comfort zone, you're not doing something. You're not doing it right. You're doing something wrong.
No, absolutely. I think it's important to push, but also support them with time. And I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
One of the books is Turn the Ship Around. It's quite a book from David Marquette. It's from a nuclear submarine general, and it's very different what you think. It's a book about how you can turn your followers into leaders, right? It's a book about how, even in nuclear submarine where it's super hierarchical, this ship runs completely without any of the the leaders or the captain making a decision, right? It's about, hey, it's very bottom up, and it's a cool story to read, just because it's such a contradiction. You would never expect that.
No, I think that's a first from more than 200 guests who have come on the pod. So I'm going to definitely look at reading this book later. And if you could go back in time when you started Deliverect, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done anything differently?
I would not change anything. I think we this time, I think the reason is in POS, iOS, after we've done it, we said, man, there's a lot of things I would have done it differently. I would have gone quicker. I would have, scaled quicker, raised more capital, and so on. I think this time we have done what we could have done. So, and yes, we're going to push more, but there's smaller tweaks. But I think the steps taken are the necessary steps.
Got it. And do you have any favorite online tools, example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom?
I'm a big fan of Slack. I think that works. We also use it as an automation tool for other things, right? So it's interwoven in our business. Even notifications to, one of the things is doing donuts, right? And there's an app called Donut where in this time we can't get coffee, right? Especially we're all remote. So that thing pops up once a day, saying, hey, you need to have a donut of 15 minutes to chat with a random guy, and we really love that in the company because you meet everyone around the world without agenda, especially online can be daunting, right? If the CEO says, hey, I need 10 minutes to chat, I think people get very nervous. It's a donut, it's okay, I'm throwing that pool and can have a normal chit chat.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes. Zhong, what is the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Deliverect?
Yeah, I'm an avid LinkedIn user, so you can link me up, ping me. I won't be able always to respond, but I'm quite often online on LinkedIn.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes. Zhong, thank you so much for taking your time and speaking to us. I've really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Thanks, Rohit. I had a great time being on your show.